Shrivel Nibble Nick, welcome to the video, and today I'm going to be talking about fruits. And to start off with, why do I eat more fruits than vegetables? And when I say fruit, I mean an actual anatomical fruit, including things like bell peppers, cucumbers, and squash, which I eat a lot of. And when I say vegetable, I mean roots, leaves, and stems. Stems like celery, roots like carrots, leaves like kale. And if you think about it, a plant like a banana wants you to eat its seeds, except a banana doesn't have a seeds, and we're going to get into that. But an apple wants you to eat its seeds. And we know, it's common knowledge, that apples have cyanide in the seeds, that the seeds are toxic. The apples produce this because they don't want you to eat the seeds. They want you to swallow them whole and poop them out whole, or just spit them out. And if you've ever bitten into an apple seed, it's kind of bitter, because it's a particularly intense version of the plant defense chemicals that a fruit seed will have. So a fruit actually wants you to eat the fleshy sweet part. That's why it's so appealing. If we're not addicted to sugar and haven't messed up our physiology to have our gut microbiome overtaken by all these sugar-loving things, and our brain physiology is normal, the sweetness of a fruit and the juiciness and freshness is probably one of the most alluring things to the human brain. It really hits our instincts because we've developed a long relationship with fruits over a long time, and our ancestors used to live a lot more in the tropics, and depending on where your ancestors are from, they might have eaten a more fruit-based diet, or they might be from a more northern climate where they had to rely more on meat and animal products to get food in the winter particularly. In a lot of places, fruit is ripe year-round. In a lot of places, fruit is ripe just during certain times of the year. And so anyways, humans have had a long relationship with fruit that is actually symbiotic because we are spreading the seeds. And if you think about it, this isn't pretty uncommon. A plant generally has to produce defense chemicals. That's why most plants are poisonous. And even things that are edible, there's a scale of how much toxicity is in there. And so something like broccoli microgreens might have a lot of health benefits from the sulforaphane. But some people might say, oh no, that's just bad, it's just a plant defense chemical. And this is actually something where I'm not sure where I stand. And so I'm going to be giving you this guideline, this understanding, but I want to stay transparent. This is kind of where the controversy is. Like, yes, it is definitely the truth that these vegetables produce plant defense chemicals, and fruits are full of nutrients and do not. However, a lot of people will say that these vegetables that produce plant defense chemicals we're adapted to. We've been eating them for a long time, and they actually have health benefits. They have a tonic effect. They can be anti-cancer. There's a lot of different theories for various different plant defense chemicals. So, and then there's people like, say, Paul Saladino, who will say, no, don't eat any vegetables. And I think anyone who has some kind of health issue should try out not eating roots, leaves, and stems and see if that helps. And then or even if you don't, just try that and see what happens when you reintegrate them, when you reintroduce them. And this is going to give you a real visceral sense of how you react to them. And as far as health things go, there is so much controversy about this and that all the time. There's always these lines. And a lot of it comes down to that there is just a large degree of biochemical and individuality on the individual level based on your specific genetics. You will just, I mean, as you know, people have different dietary things that they can't eat, like dairy, gluten. What kind of foods will cause you issues is a large spectrum. So as far as vegetables and plant defense chemicals go, you're best off just trying it out and seeing how you feel. That's how you're going to get to the bottom of how good they are for you. For me, what I do is I eat mostly fruits, and then I do eat vegetables as well, but just a lot less. And so I'm eating a lot of bell peppers and cucumbers raw. I love cooked squash, pumpkins, all these things, the cucurbitaceae family. But at the same time, you don't want to just go eat a bunch of cucurbitaceae. It's a family of plants, cucumbers, squashes, they all are in it. And then if you look at something like nightshades, a lot of people will have sensitivity to nightshades, like tomatoes and bell peppers. However, that is a fruit that has seeds. And so for some people, maybe they have a better reaction to nightshades, or a worse reaction to nightshades, even though it's a fruit. and they can handle vegetables better. So overall, getting back to the premise of this video, we have our fruits, we have our vegetables. Fruits really have formed a symbiotic relationship with humans. Humans are in this constant battle with plants. Some plant develops a toxin that kills humans, and then it wins. It's doing good evolutionarily. Humans aren't eating it. And then some human develops immunity to that, becomes resistant to it, and they start eating that plant. The human does well until the plant develops more defense chemicals. Some plants don't really rely on this as a defense strategy for whatever reason. Maybe they're more abundant. However, a lot of the plants we eat, pretty much every plant that we eat has actually been bred to have less of these plant defense chemicals over the last 12,000 years that industrial agriculture has been going on. So it really is a spectrum of how toxic each plant is. And within that spectrum, you have to decide, like, it's debatable, is how is that actually affecting the human if it isn't at a super toxic level? Can they handle that and it's worth it and there's really not many actual negative effects for the health? Or is it leading to a lot of disease and unwellness? So within those last 12,000 years, bananas, actually, if you're not buying or if you're getting GMO bananas, I think, non-organic, they all have the same genetics. And don't quote me on this, but within the past 100 years, I think it is, they've found one source of really good banana genetics, and now they're very vulnerable to disease. And so even within that last 12,000 years, all these different plants that we're breeding, some are a lot more recent and some we've had thousands of years to adapt to, and are a lot more close to their wild relatives. And so that's another good thing to think about. What is healthier? Is it healthier to eat some plant that we've been eating for 500,000 years, say, that we've adapted to, that has a lot more bitter, and they are bitter. When you taste something that's bitter, that's generally the plant defense chemicals, and that's what bitter is. It's our ability to taste that. Pretty much every poisonous plant is bitter. Plant defense chemicals are no different than poisons. It's just a degree of severity of toxicity, and the type. But anyways, what was I saying? Bitterness, skip forward 10 seconds. Yeah, so what is healthier? This thing that's 500,000 years old that we've been eating and are adapted to, or these plants over the last 12,000 years that we have decided to start breeding, right? And lowering the levels of plants' defense chemicals, among other things, increasing defense to pest resistance, increasing the size of the fruiting body. The actual thing that bananas came from, the actual plant, is so much smaller. It has these seeds in it. This banana that you're looking at, every banana that you eat, has been bred to not produce seeds. Something about the chromosome amounts. So that's another thing that I'm not really sure where I stand, which is healthier, these ancient plants that have more defense chemicals or these more recent things. But I definitely am for the things that are more in the last 12,000 years, and a lot more suspicious of these changes that have been done in the last few hundred years, because a lot of these more recent changes are to maximize efficiency, to increase the size of the fruit, to increase pest resistance. And then you get into things like genetic modification, things that are glyphosate resistant, so that you can spray a whole field with glyphosate, kill everything but the plant. So I would say I try and stick to things that have been around for at least, for the longer the better, up to 12,000 years ago. So just these heirloom varieties of plants that have been bred to have less plant defense chemicals. Yeah, and then so you get into that and you're thinking, like, well, is that really healthy? This is like man-made human. We know that human health went down after industrial agriculture. Of course, not factoring in the people who would have starved otherwise, because of a decreased diversity in the amount of plants that we're eating, and too much grains, stuff like that, because grains were a huge revolution because you could store them. That would help you get through the winter. But if you're just eating a bunch of grains, they don't have much nutrients. Whereas if you're eating like a huge diversity of these more recent plants, that's very different. So yeah. And then another thing to talk about, like, so plants have plant defense chemicals, except fruits, because they want you to eat them. Animals simply run away. And animals have also changed recently. It's pretty hard to get meat from an animal. Like, you can get wild meat from a hunted animal, but the varieties of animals that we breed are very different. Just not, a lot of them aren't quite as genetically modified as plants. So yeah, overall, there's a lot I got into here. I didn't expect to cover all of that, but I think it's a pretty interesting topic just to think, like, when we're considering if we should eat fruits and vegetables, there's this whole spectrum. It's really a lot more complicated. And so when I have this position like, oh, I try and eat more fruits than vegetables, I try not to eat GMOs, there's really this whole history of plant modification over the last 12,000 years of many different kinds. And this whole spectrum of fruits that don't have plant defense chemicals, vegetables that have been bred to have less plant defense chemicals, and then more ancient plants that haven't been messed with, that we can forage and eat and stuff like this. So yeah, but at the end of the day, one thing is that our ancestors would eat over 1,000 plants, 1,000 different plants throughout the year. So I don't think the answer is like, oh, cucumbers. Cucumbers are healthy. You take out the seeds, you eat the flesh. I'm going to eat cucumbers every day, all the time. I think you're better off eating a bunch of different stuff, and this is one reason that I still eat vegetables. It's really hard to get a variety, and if you go to the grocery store, it's hard to get a variety, but mix it around, get as many different things as you can. That is one of the huge problems with industrial agriculture's effects on our health, is the lack of diversity. So focus on what's healthier, try and eat the things that are healthier, see what you're sensitive to, but at the end of the day, eat a lot of different plants, a lot of different animal products if you eat animal products, and don't just stick to like some beef and cucumbers every day. All right, Triple Nipple Nick, if you like this video, questions below. I'll make you a personalized video with any question you have, any topic you want me to talk about. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Done.